The man lived far from everyone. No city, no village, no neighbors. His home was a small wooden cabin, deep in the forest, on a quiet world that most people had forgotten. He had chosen this life. He had left war, noise, and people behind. Out here, there was only the sound of the wind moving through the trees, the river flowing nearby, and the call of wild birds at dawn. Each day was the same. He woke with the sun, stepped outside, and breathed the cold, fresh air. He chopped wood for the fire, cooked fish he caught from the river, and sometimes hunted deer in the thick forest. He repaired his tools with his own hands. He wrote nothing, sent no messages, and waited for no one. This was peace. And he had promised himself never to let it go. The man was not young, but he was not old either. His face carried lines of experience, his eyes sharp but tired. Once, long ago, he had been part of something bigger. He had worn a uniform, carried a weapon, and lived through battles across the stars. He had seen friends fall. He had seen worlds burn. And when the war was finally over for him, he walked away. He wanted silence. He wanted to forget. Years passed. Seasons changed. The forest became his world. At night, he sat by the fire, listening to the crackle of flames. Sometimes he watched the stars. He wondered about the ships flying between them, about the people rushing from one planet to another, still fighting, still searching for power. But those thoughts never stayed long. He told himself he had no place in that world anymore. Then, one night, everything changed. The sky was clear. Stars glittered like dust scattered across black glass. The man leaned against a tree near his cabin, staring upward. He felt calm. The kind of calm that came only from being far from the rest of humanity. But then he saw it, something strange. A light. At first, he thought it was just another shooting star. A quick flash, nothing more. But this light did not fade. It grew brighter. It cut across the sky, leaving a trail of fire behind it. His eyes narrowed. He had seen this before, in another life, in another war. This was no star. This was a ship. The object roared through the night sky, moving too fast, too low. The ground trembled. The trees shivered as if the forest itself was afraid. Then came the sound, a deep, cracking boom that shook the earth under his feet. Birds burst from the trees, wings flapping wildly in panic. The man grabbed his old hunting rifle, his hands moving without thought. His body remembered training he thought he had buried long ago. He followed the light with his eyes as it streaked across the heavens. Finally, it disappeared beyond the line of trees, and a flash of orange lit up the distant hills. A crash. Smoke rose into the night. The smell of burning metal reached even his cabin. He felt his heart beating faster, harder than it had in years. He had wanted peace. He had wanted silence. But now something had fallen from the stars into his quiet world. For a long moment, he stood still, rifle in hand, listening. The forest was too quiet now. No crickets, no owls, no wind. Just silence, heavy and waiting. The man knew what it could mean. A crashed ship might carry pirates. Or smugglers. Or worse, soldiers hunting for someone. Trouble always followed the fire of the sky. He closed his eyes for a second, breathing slowly. A part of him wanted to stay inside his cabin, shut the door, and forget. Pretend it never happened. That was the safe choice. That was the choice of a hermit, but another part of him, the part that once lived through battles, told him he could not ignore it. If danger had come to this forest, it would not leave him untouched. At last, he slung his rifle across his shoulder and started walking. His boots pressed into the damp soil, carrying him toward the smoke. Step by step, the forest grew darker, the air thicker with the scent of burning. His pulse quickened, each beat echoing in his ears. The man did not know what he would find. Wreckage, maybe. Corpses, maybe. Or something worse. But he kept moving, through the shadows, deeper into the unknown. And for the first time in years, his quiet life no longer felt safe. It felt fragile, like glass about to break. Somewhere ahead, beyond the trees, the fire burned. Somewhere ahead, his fate waited. The smoke rose high into the night sky, curling like a dark hand over the forest. The hermit pushed forward, each step cautious but steady. He had walked these woods for years, but tonight they felt different. The air was sharp, heavy with the scent of fire and something else, burning metal, oil, chemicals. It was the smell of war, and it made his stomach tighten. He moved like a hunter, silent and alert. His rifle was ready, but his eyes were sharper than the weapon. Every broken branch, every flicker of light between the trees, he noticed. The forest itself seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for what came next. The ground became rougher as he climbed over rocks and roots. The glow of fire grew brighter, painting the leaves with an orange-red light. Then he heard it, the faint hiss of something cooling, the pop and crackle of burning wreckage. He slowed. Through the trees, he saw it at last. A ship. Or what was left of one. It had torn through the forest like a knife, cutting a deep scar in the earth. Trees lay snapped and broken in every direction. The ship itself was half buried, tilted on one side, metal plates twisted and glowing from the heat. Sparks spat from broken wires. Smoke hissed from shattered vents. The hermit crouched behind a fallen tree, studying the wreck. His pulse was steady, though he felt the weight of danger pressing on him. He had seen many ships fall before, in other battles, on other worlds. Most times, nothing survived. But sometimes, someone did. And survivors could be worse than wreckage. He scanned the scene carefully. No sign of soldiers. No sign of weapons fire. No movement. Then. A sound. Soft, weak. A cough. His eyes narrowed. Someone was alive. He moved closer, staying in the shadows. His boots pressed into ash and broken leaves as he circled the wreck. At the edge of the torn hull, he stopped. There, half hidden by twisted metal, was a figure. At first, he thought his eyes were tricking him. The shape was human, but not quite. The figure struggled, pushing against the wreckage, trying to stand. Firelight revealed smooth skin, pale and almost glowing, like silver touched with blue. Long hair spilled across her shoulders, shining faintly even in the dark. Her ears, pointed and elegant, twitched at the smallest sounds. She was tall, graceful even in her weakness. Armor clung to her body, golden plates cracked and bent, marked with strange symbols he didn't recognize. Her chest rose and fell quickly, breath shallow. She tried to lift her head, her eyes finding him through the smoke. For a moment, the hermit froze. She was beautiful, yes, but also dangerous, too strange, too unknown, her lips parted. Her voice was soft, broken, but carried a weight of command. "Please, help me." The hermit's grip tightened on his rifle. His mind raced. He wanted no part in this. He wanted to turn away, leave her, let the forest and the wreck swallow the problem. That was the life he had chosen, silence, distance, safety, but he did not move. Her eyes locked on his. They glowed faintly, like stars reflected in water. There was strength in them, but also fear. And something about that look pulled at him, like a chain he could not break. He stepped closer, slowly, his rifle still raised. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice low, rough from years of disuse. She coughed again, struggling to breathe. Her words were broken, but clear enough. "Not enemy. Not soldier. I need you." The hermit's jaw tightened. He glanced around the wreck once more. The forest was still quiet, but he knew it would not last. Crashes like this drew attention. Others would come, scavengers, soldiers, maybe hunters. And if they found her before he made a choice, there would be blood. He lowered his rifle, just slightly. His hands reached out, gripping the edge of the wreckage. With a grunt of effort, he pushed, shifting the broken metal enough for her to crawl free. She stumbled forward, falling against him, her weight light but trembling. Up close, he could see the cuts across her skin, the way her armor was cracked, the faint shimmer of energy fading from her golden chest plate. She was hurt badly, but alive. The hermit steadied her, his voice low. "Can you walk?" She nodded weakly, her silver blue hair brushing his shoulder. "Yes, but they will come." The words made his blood run cold. "They?" he asked. Her gaze turned toward the sky, where the stars burned silently above. Her voice dropped to a whisper, filled with urgency. "My hunters." The hermit's grip on his rifle tightened again. The peaceful life he had built was already breaking apart. And now, standing in the glow of the burning wreck, he realized something with absolute certainty. His world would never be quiet again. The hermit led the stranger away from the crash site, his rifle ready, his senses sharp. Every step he took, he expected the forest to come alive with enemies. But for now, only the hiss of burning wreckage filled the night. The woman leaned against him, her body weak but her gaze steady, as though she refused to fall no matter how broken she was. When they reached the safety of his cabin, the hermit pushed the door open and guided her inside. The small home smelled of smoke from the fire pit, dried herbs, and old wood. It was not much, a single bed, a table, tools, and a fire burning low in the corner. But here, at least, there was shelter. He lowered her gently onto the bed. She winced, clutching her side. Her golden armor was cracked, jagged edges pressing into her skin. The hermit grabbed a knife and, with careful movements, cut away the broken pieces. Beneath, he saw wounds, deep, glowing cuts that looked both human and alien. He fetched a bowl of water, cloth, and herbs, working with hands that remembered healing as well as killing. For a long moment, the woman was silent. Then her eyes met his. They were strange eyes, large and glowing softly, like silver glass lit from within. Her lips parted, her voice quiet but clear. "You are not afraid." The hermit didn't answer right away. His face was calm, unreadable, but inside, his thoughts raced. She was right. He should have been afraid. She was alien. She was dangerous. And yet, fear was not what he felt. What he felt was something else, curiosity, maybe even a faint pull of respect. Finally, he spoke. "Fear is useless. Fear gets you killed." Her lips curved, just slightly, into what might have been a smile. Then it faded, and her body trembled with pain. The hermit cleaned her wounds, tied bandages, and placed a blanket over her. She watched him with sharp eyes, as though studying him as carefully as he studied her. At last, she spoke again. "My name is Serenya." The word carried weight, as though it was not just a name but a title. The hermit's eyes narrowed. "Serenya," he repeated, testing the sound. "Who are you?" She drew in a breath, her voice weak but steady. "I am Princess Serenya of the Alari Dominion." The hermit paused, his hands tightening around the cloth he held. A princess. He had heard of the Alari, long ago in the war. They were powerful, advanced, their empire stretching across the stars. To meet one here, in his quiet forest, it was impossible. "Why are you here?" he asked. Her gaze darkened. "Because they hunt me. Because I carry something they cannot allow to survive." The hermit leaned closer, his voice low. "What do you carry?" But Serenya shook her head. "Not yet. You would not believe. But you must understand this, if they find me, your world will burn." The hermit sat back, silent. He stared at the fire flickering in the corner, thinking. He had left war behind. He had sworn never to fight again. And now, fate had dragged war back to his door in the shape of a wounded princess. For a while, the cabin was quiet. Only the sound of her breathing and the crackle of the fire filled the space. Then, softly, Serenya spoke again. "You live alone," she said. "Why?" The hermit looked at her, his jaw tight. "Because I saw too much death. Too much fire. I wanted peace." She studied him with those glowing eyes. "And yet, peace found you only until I fell from the sky." He did not reply. Hours passed. Outside, the night grew colder. The forest was silent, but the hermit's mind was not. He kept hearing her words, "They hunt me." He kept remembering the way she had looked at him, not with command, not with arrogance, but with desperation and strength. Finally, as the fire burned low, Serenya stirred. Her voice was almost a whisper, but her words carried power. "You saved me tonight. For that, I owe you. But know this, if you keep me here, you will not be left alone. They will come. And they will kill you to get to me." The hermit looked at her, his rifle leaning against the wall within reach. He felt the weight of her warning pressing down on him. His quiet life was breaking apart, piece by piece. And deep inside, though he would not admit it even to himself, a question began to grow. Why did he save her? The cabin was quiet, but the hermit felt no peace. He sat at the small table, sharpening his old hunting knife, though his eyes often drifted to the woman resting on his bed. The firelight touched her silver-blue skin, making it glow softly. Even in weakness, she looked powerful, like someone born to command armies, not hide in a broken cabin. Princess Serenya's breathing had grown steadier since he treated her wounds, but her eyes never closed for long. Every sound outside, the crack of branches, the cry of a night bird, made her tense, as though she expected enemies to storm the cabin at any moment. Finally, her voice broke the silence. "You want answers," she said. The hermit's hand stilled on the knife. He looked at her, his face calm but his thoughts sharp. "I want to know what you've brought to my world," he replied. Serenya sat up slowly, wincing at the pain in her side. She held his gaze. "If I tell you, you will no longer be safe. You will become a part of this." The hermit let out a short, humorless laugh. "Safe? That ended the moment your ship fell from the sky." Her lips curved, not in a smile but in acknowledgement. "True." For a long moment, she was silent, as if weighing her words carefully. Then she spoke, her voice soft but filled with weight. "I carry the star key." The hermit frowned. The name meant nothing to him. "What is it?" Serenya's glowing eyes darkened. "A weapon. And a promise. It was created by the Ilari to open the gates between worlds, to command fleets across the stars. But in the wrong hands, it can destroy entire systems. Whole suns could be silenced." The hermit leaned back slowly, the weight of her words pressing into him. He had seen weapons before. He had fought in wars where billions died. But this was something different. Something far worse. "Why you?" he asked. Her voice grew quieter, almost bitter. "Because I am the last one who can use it. The blood of my line binds me to it. My enemies know this. If they kill me, the star key will be theirs. And then, nothing will stop them." The hermit stared at her. His mind felt heavy, full of memories he had tried to bury, battles, burning worlds, the screams of the innocent. He had come here to escape all of it. And yet, somehow, the universe had dropped its burden back on his doorstep. He rose to his feet and paced across the small cabin. His boots thudded against the wooden floor. "You should not have come here," he said, his voice low. "You've brought death with you." Serenya looked at him, her expression unreadable. Do you think I chose this? My ship was attacked. I had no choice but to flee. I fell here, by chance. Her words carried no pride, no arrogance. Only truth. The hermit's jaw tightened. He wanted to send her away, to push this problem back into the forest and forget. But he could not ignore the glow in her eyes, the raw strength hidden beneath her pain. Then Serenya spoke again, her tone colder. You saved me. Now you must choose. Will you hide, or will you stand? The hermit turned, his eyes narrowing. And fight your war? No. That is not my life anymore. Her gaze sharpened, like a blade. Your life, she said. Look around you. This cabin, this forest, do you think it will survive when my hunters arrive? They will burn it to ash. They will kill you, not because you are a soldier, but because you are near me. Your peace is already gone. Her words cut deep. The hermit felt them like the weight of iron in his chest. He wanted to deny it, but he could not. He had felt it in his bones the moment he saw the crash. His quiet life was broken. Serenya leaned back, her breath ragged, but her voice steady. I did not come here to steal your peace. But fate has no mercy. If you leave me, you will still die when they arrive. If you stand with me, you may yet live. The fire crackled between them, filling the silence with its soft hiss. The hermit stared into the flames, his hands tightening on the handle of his knife. He hated it. He hated that she was right. He had spent years trying to forget war. But war had not forgotten him. Finally, he looked at her. His voice was quiet, but heavy with decision. Tell me everything. From the beginning. Serenya's glowing eyes softened. She nodded once, slowly, as if sealing a pact. Then listen well, hermit. For the truth will chase you until your last breath. The forest was too quiet. The hermit stood outside his cabin at dawn, his eyes scanning the trees. Mist clung to the ground, curling around roots and stones. Birds that usually filled the morning with calls were silent. Even the river seemed hushed, as though nature itself held its breath. He gripped his rifle tightly. For years, this forest had been his safe world, a place untouched by war. But now, he could feel it, the storm coming closer. Behind him, inside the cabin, Princess Serenya stirred. Her wound still pained her, but her strength was returning faster than he expected. She appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly in the pale light. Her eyes scanned the horizon with the same sharpness as his. They are near, she whispered. The hermit nodded. He didn't ask how she knew. He trusted her instincts now. Hours passed, heavy and slow. The hermit kept watch while Serenya sat by the fire, conserving her strength. Every crack of a branch made him stiffen. Every flicker of shadow turned his gaze sharp. He was a man who had once lived by the rhythm of war, and now those instincts returned, unbidden but sharp as ever. By midday, he heard it. The sound came faintly at first, like a low hum carried on the wind. Then it grew louder, more distinct. A rhythmic thump, metallic, unnatural. Footsteps. Many of them. The hermit crouched, his rifle raised. He could see shapes moving between the trees, shadows too large to be animals. Slowly, armored figures emerged from the mist. There were dozens of them, tall and menacing, clad in black plates that shimmered faintly with energy. Their helmets hid their faces, glowing red visors cutting through the fog. Strange weapons, humming with power, rested in their hands. The hunters. They moved in formation, their heads turning slowly, scanning every corner of the forest. Devices in their hands clicked and beeped, searching for signals, for energy traces. They were methodical, patient, like wolves sniffing for prey. The hermit's grip on his rifle tightened. His cabin was hidden by trees and rocks, but it would not remain hidden for long. Inside, Serenya's voice cut through the silence. They will not stop. They will search every inch of this forest until they find me. The hermit looked back at her, his jaw tight. How many? She stepped closer, her glowing eyes fixed on the enemy. Too many for you alone. Her words were truth, and yet, his hands did not shake. He had fought before. He had faced worse odds. But this time was different. He was not fighting for soldiers, or governments, or banners. If he fought now, it would be for survival, and for her. The hunters spread out, moving closer to the cabin. The hermit could hear their voices through the helmets, speaking in a harsh alien tongue. Serenya understood them. Her face grew pale. They know I am near, she whispered. They're scanners, they have locked onto me. The hermit cursed under his breath. Time was running out. He had two choices: run deeper into the forest and hope they could escape, or stand and fight. He turned to Serenya. If I hide you, will they still burn this place? She held his gaze for a long moment. Then she shook her head slowly. They will not leave anything standing. They cannot risk it. The hermit's chest tightened. His cabin, his quiet life, everything he had built, it would all be destroyed. He had thought he could keep the war away, but the war had come anyway. The hunters drew closer. One of them raised a scanner, its red beam sweeping across the trees. It passed dangerously close to the cabin. Serenya stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. You cannot face them all alone. The hermit's eyes were hard. I don't need to kill them all. Just enough to make the rest afraid. He checked his rifle, the familiar weight comforting in his hands. Then he moved quickly through the cabin, grabbing tools, ropes, and traps he had long ago set aside. His mind worked fast, like it once had on battlefields. Serenya watched him, her glowing eyes unreadable. You said you wanted peace, she said softly. He paused, just for a moment. Then his voice came low, steady, like stone. Peace is gone. Outside, the hunters spread into formation. One of them raised a weapon, its energy core glowing. The forest filled with the hum of power charging. The hermit's heart beat once, hard. And then he moved. The first blast struck the ground just beyond the cabin, shaking the walls and filling the air with smoke and dust. The hermit pressed Serenya down, shielding her with his body as dirt and splinters rained across the floor. Outside, the hunters shouted in their harsh tongue, their boots pounding closer. The hermit's heart hammered in his chest, but his hands were steady. He crawled to the window, lifted his rifle, and sighted down the scope. Through the fog, one of the hunters moved forward, weapon raised. The hermit's finger squeezed the trigger. The crack of the rifle split the forest. The bullet punched through the hunter's visor, dropping him instantly. The others froze for a moment, surprised. Then their voices rose, angry and sharp. They knew now, they were not alone. The hermit ducked back, loading another round. Serenya's glowing eyes watched him, her expression unreadable. You are fighting again, she said softly. He didn't look at her. I'm surviving. Another blast hit the cabin, this one tearing through the roof and setting beams aflame. Smoke thickened, stinging his eyes. The hermit cursed under his breath. He had built this cabin with his own hands, shaping every wall, every stone. Now it was breaking apart under enemy fire. His sanctuary, his quiet life, it was being stolen from him. He crouched low, thinking fast. His traps. Ropes tied to hidden logs. Spikes buried in the soil. He had built them long ago, more from old habit than true need. Now, for the first time, they would be tested. He motioned to Serenya. Stay close. When I move, you move. She nodded, her body tense, ready despite her wounds. The hermit kicked open the back door and darted into the trees. Hunters shouted, beams of red energy streaking past him. He rolled behind a fallen log, raised his rifle, and fired again. Another enemy fell, sparks flying from his shattered helmet. Then the first trap snapped. A hunter stepped onto the wrong patch of ground, and a spike trap shot upward, piercing his armor and dragging him down. His scream echoed through the forest before it was cut short. The hermit's lips tightened. The old skills had not faded after all. He moved quickly, guiding Serenya through the shadows, using every inch of the forest he knew so well. Hunters followed, but more than once, they stumbled into his snares. The crack of snapping wood, the thud of falling logs, the cry of pain, his traps slowed them, but they did not stop. Finally, the hermit and Serenya crouched behind a boulder, catching their breath. The glow of enemy visors flickered between the trees, closing in. "They will not stop," Serenya whispered. The hermit looked at her. His face was grim, but his voice was steady. "Then I won't either." For a long moment, they stared at each other. Serenya's glowing eyes softened. "You said once you wanted peace," she said. He nodded slowly. "I did. But peace died the night you fell from the sky." Her lips curved, faintly, into something between sadness and respect. "Then why fight?" He looked at her, his jaw tight, his rifle steady in his hands. "Because they will burn this forest. They will kill me. And they will kill you. I will not let that happen. Not while I'm still breathing." Serenya held his gaze, and in that instant, something passed between them, an unspoken bond, forged not in words but in fire and survival. The hunters shouted again, their voices closer. Red beams slashed through the trees, striking the boulder they hid behind. Stone shattered, fragments flying. The hermit stood, rifle raised, his body tall against the glow of the enemy lights. His voice was low, but it carried the weight of choice. "I will fight. Not for your throne, not for your empire. I will fight because you are here. And because I refuse to die quietly." Serenya's eyes shone brighter, as though lit by a fire within. She rose beside him, her cracked golden armor glinting faintly in the smoke and light. Even wounded, she looked every bit a princess, proud and unyielding. Together, they faced the oncoming hunters. The hermit took a deep breath, feeling the old instincts return, focus, precision, the calm that came before chaos. He had buried this part of himself long ago, but tonight, he dug it up again. The forest erupted with gunfire and energy blasts. Hunters fell, but more pushed forward. The hermit fired, reloaded, fired again, moving with a deadly rhythm. Serenya, though weak, raised her hand, and for a brief moment, light shimmered from her palm, deflecting a blast that would have killed him. The hermit glanced at her, startled. She met his eyes and gave a faint nod. "You are not alone," she whispered. And then the fight raged on, the forest burned with light and sound. Energy blasts tore through the trees, scorching bark and splitting branches. The hermit moved like a shadow among the chaos, his rifle cracking again and again. Each shot found its mark. A hunter's helmet shattered. Another fell with a hole in his chest. But for every enemy he dropped, two more pressed forward, their glowing visors cutting through the smoke. Serenya stood beside him, her breathing ragged, but her presence unyielding. Her cracked golden armor shimmered faintly, and from her palm flickered bursts of energy, raw and unstable, yet powerful enough to deflect the hunter's fire. She was no longer just a wounded princess hiding in his cabin. She was a warrior. A blast struck the ground near them, throwing dirt into the air. The hermit pulled Serenya down behind a fallen tree. The wood smoldered under the heat of enemy fire. "They'll pin us down," he shouted. Her glowing eyes burned fiercely. "Then we break through." Before he could argue, she rose to her feet, her hands glowing brighter. A wave of light burst outward, slamming into the nearest hunters and sending them sprawling. The hermit stared for a heartbeat, then moved. He charged forward, rifle raised, firing with deadly accuracy. He weaved between trees, using the terrain he knew better than anyone. Traps still hidden in the forest sprung to life, nets of rope snapping hunters into the air, sharpened stakes piercing through armor. The hunters snarled in anger, their strange voices rising in fury. They regrouped, raising their glowing weapons as one. Serenya staggered to his side, her strength nearly spent. The hermit saw it in her face, the light within her was fading. He stepped forward, blocking her with his own body as a volley of blasts rained down. Bark exploded around him, heat searing his skin, but he did not flinch. "Stay behind me," he growled. She looked at him, her lips pressed tight, then nodded. For the first time, she let him shield her. The hermit fired until his rifle clicked empty. He dropped it, pulled his old combat knife from his belt, and charged. The nearest hunter swung his weapon, but the hermit ducked low, slamming the blade up beneath the armor. Sparks burst as the enemy collapsed. Another hunter came from the side. The hermit spun, grabbing a fallen branch and smashing it into the visor with brutal force. The red glow flickered, then died, but he was only one man, and there were too many. The hunters circled, their weapons aimed, ready to finish it. Serenya pushed herself forward, raising her hands again, but the glow was faint now, trembling. She swayed on her feet. The hermit stepped in front of her once more, his knife ready though his breath came heavy. His face was grim, but his eyes burned with iron resolve. "If you want her," he growled at the hunters, "you'll have to take me first." For a moment, the forest fell silent. Only the crackle of fire and the hiss of smoke filled the air. The hunters' visors glowed brighter as they raised their weapons. And then, light exploded. From Serenya's chest, a sudden burst of brilliance erupted, blinding and pure. It swept across the clearing like a storm of stars. The hunters staggered, their armor sizzling as the light seared through circuits and cores. One by one, they collapsed, their weapons falling silent. The hermit shielded his eyes, his body tense. When the light faded, the forest was filled with silence again. The hunters lay scattered, motionless, smoke rising from their broken armor. The hermit turned to Serenya. She had fallen to her knees, trembling, her glow dimmed to almost nothing. He rushed to her, catching her before she collapsed fully. "You're burning yourself out," he said, his voice rough. Her lips curved faintly into a weary smile. "I told you, you were not alone." He held her steady, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Around them, the forest smoldered, filled with the wreckage of battle. His cabin was gone. His peace was gone. But in his arms was the reason he had fought, the reason he had chosen. For the first time in years, the hermit felt alive. He looked into the trees, knowing this was not the end. More would come. The hunters had been only the beginning. But now, he was no longer just a hermit, now, he was a soldier again. And this time, he was not fighting for orders or nations. He was fighting for her. The forest wind stirred, carrying the smell of smoke and fire. The hermit tightened his grip on the princess, his eyes sharp, his voice steady as stone. "Let them come."